to this episode of Disrupt Education. I've got Carlo Navarro in 1871. Awesome to have you. Tell us what you're all about.
Yeah, so my name is Carlo. I like to call myself an aspiring entrepreneur and really passionate about social impact, education, and I co-founded a company called Diversely, which is essentially a career development platform that helps diverse candidates connect with hiring technology companies.
Nice. So where did that come from? How did that idea evolve?
Yeah, so I had spent some time working in education, actually out of 1871 with the Startup Institute. So I helped build the Startup Institute Chicago, which was an in-person boot camp where we help people get the skills and network to get a job at a startup. And after that kind of tour, I wanted to continue. I really found my passion helping people find their kind of career purpose and finding a job that they're actually going to love. But a lot of it became more clear that it was a mission that, being a person from a diverse background, that there was just this big gap that we all know about. That's, a gap that we need to close in diversity. And technology companies are one of the worst at it. And so I want to take that kind of mission of helping people find a job, but also help this specific audience get the network and the skills, really soft skills, to get into a job that they're going to love.
So in Chicago, why Chicago? You've been to a lot of different places, and I've seen it on your Instagram. But so why Chicago? What do you think is cool about Chicago to have that start here? Yeah.
So I've been in Chicago almost 15 years, and so what was really special to me is that I was here in the startup space before 1871, before a lot of these really great resources, and as much as we see how we feel like it's becoming a successful city, there's so much more to do, and the potential of becoming, and I don't want to compare it to Silicon Valley or New York. I think we have our own, our own persona that we need to continue to figure out, and I think Chicago is the place to do it. I think there's the ecosystem is just really ripe for helping solve this particular gap. And I think it's a good place to do it, right? I think there's a lot of resources and good people that can help close this gap here too.
Awesome. Let's take a look at your education then.
Yeah.
So your education background, like go back into, some people are comfortable going all the way to elementary school, but we can start in high school unless you and then until now. What did your formal and basically your experiential education look like?
So formally, traditional school, I went to I was a Catholic school from kindergarten through 8th grade. And then after that, I was a product of a not Chicago, but I grew up in Detroit area. So public school system in high school. And so the traditional way of for me learning, particularly, in grade school and high school, was just trying to consume information from teachers and being benchmarked by tests. And I was not a good student. I really wasn't. I couldn't really retain a lot of information. I was a terrible, terrible test taker. Just unbelievably horrible at test taking. I couldn't really figure that out. But the things that resonated were the experiential things. Even in a traditional, landscape, were the things like sports, anything creative, art, music, where there was something for me to tactically learn to do from, and where someone was showing me how to do something, and I found a lot more passion in that and drive in that. But I was a terrible student. I mean, I failed a lot of classes. I was probably an average student. The way I got through school was actually, so my sister is a completely opposite way of learning from me. She's a straight A student. Luckily, we were able to keep all of her tests, and they didn't change the test very much. So I memorized answers for exams and homework, and just hoped that they didn't change the answers. But if they did, I got them wrong, which was fine because it didn't look like I was a total straight A student. But and that's essentially how I got through. And the same with school. I struggled through undergrad, and I think mainly because inside I really wanted to do something entrepreneurial. But I never put a finger on it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, and nothing wrong with the way I was brought up culturally. My parents immigrated from the Philippines, and education was the way out. Like a good degree, a high-paying job, a secure secure future was the way to do it.
Right.
And anything outside that norm was considered risky. But for me, I remember after high school, I told my parents I wanted to take a year off.
Yeah.
And try to do music. Did not go over well at all. Right. But I knew inside, maybe it wasn't music, but it was something a lot more risky and entrepreneurial, and no one else really did that in the family. So there was no network, there was no safety net, and so the way I learned was just by, going from job to job. If you look at my LinkedIn, I've had a lot of different jobs in different areas. Traditionally, you look at it like, he's skipped around, he's not sure what he wants to do. But I think that was just discovery for me.
Right.
And I learned a lot, I failed a lot, and I think it's just now hitting my stride at 30, 39.
Yeah.
So it's just been a really crazy path. And I think that's also like the passion behind Diversely is that I see a lot of people in the same situation that come from a background with no network. And if they just had that network and had that mentorship, maybe they can find out what they want to do earlier. Not that they would become an entrepreneur tomorrow, but it's say 5 years from now, if that's your end goal.
Right.
Let's set up a path that you can work somewhere to learn what you need to learn, but know in your heart that you're going to become that entrepreneur in like 5 years, 10 years, rather than what I did was like, well, I like this. Let me try this. And I was tasting, but it was it was hard, and I don't recommend it for everybody because it just, a lot of times were really tough.
What did you initially go to college for then? So for your undergrad, what were you looking at? How was that path?
Undergrad, I went to Ball State University. I think I remember my mom waking me up and said she must have given me a postcard or something from the university. I had applied, and they had somehow given me like somewhat of a scholarship to go there to pay in-state tuition. I didn't really have other choices. Some of the places I love because of the sports, like University of Michigan, I didn't get in.
Yeah.
So let's go, and I did that. Initially, I was encouraged to go into engineering, something what was highly encouraged me to go into. I wasn't really passionate about. And
did that encouragement come from family, school?
Family, mostly family. And then I felt like I wasn't the plan was to go there for a couple of years, transfer to Purdue because they had a good engineering program.
Big engineering program.
Great.
Yeah.
That just wasn't my strength, and so I had quit that degree and went the opposite way. I went to pursue an art degree, and so that was interesting path for me. Ended up going towards graphic design, and then didn't get into the program. I didn't get into the program, so I had to choose another major. I said, well, what am I going to do? Let's look at marketing, and it seems like an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I think I can maybe handle that, and there was some creativity in there.
Yeah.
I want to potentially go into an ad business and become a creative director, like a lot of people want to, and so I went that path. 5 years later, I graduated with a marketing degree, but then went into media and advertising my first year out because that was the first.
Which Ball State's it's a good school.
It's
a
great school.
Right?
It's a great school. Yeah.
David Letterman came out of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So then going back, Diversely and building that network, do you think there's a place for a better systemic educational system to build that network and kind of fulfill more of your why that you're already creating with this entity? What does that look like to you?
Ideally, I think, and it's tough, right? Because the resources and the time for educators to be able to spend with students. But a lot of what I've come across, even with career changers today that want to get a job in tech or new grads, is that they still don't really understand what they want.
Yeah.
It's still this big career discovery, and I think if we could start from a very early age, like I have 3 kids, and now if you pay attention, you can see where their pocket of interest are and their passions are. And I always say, if you're interested or passionate about something, it typically is an indication that you might be good at that, or that's what you might want to do, and help encourage that. Of course, also explore other options, but I think it starts really early from anyone who's parenting or in charge of these kids and saying, listen, let's give you some options to see where you may fall, and how can we encourage creativity versus teach from educator up front consume it, and then let's test it to see if it works. I just don't think that works out.
Right. How so Startup Dad is
yeah.
on Instagram. You're going to throw that up here.
Thanks.
People need to see that. That's awesome. And I have noticed, I'm a father myself, and it's, I have a gig going on, but I'm also trying to experiment with my own children, right? And trying to figure out. So telling me what you just walked through there is starting at a younger age. Are there any tips or things that you're doing with your children that you see kind of work?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Early on, there's activities that you expose them to that they'll be interested in, right? I think they're going to have that kind of pocket of what they want to do. For instance, my daughter is really interested in ballet, dance, and that's great, and we want to encourage that. But also, we want to encourage things like sports or team building, right, or collaboration. Ballet is very individual. It can be. There's obviously other dancers there, but how do you explore things like, she had a really hard time, she didn't want to do soccer. We really encourage that because there's this team aspect to it. How do you explore collaboration and communication? And so it's trying to expose them not just to what, traditionally what they might be interested in, girls in ballet, guys in sports, but also cross that a little bit to see what could be an interest. It's also paying really close attention to. We have a good relationship with the teachers as well, but just seeing like my son, and he's very good at puzzles, right? So you can kind of envision it. So he might be interested in maybe coding or introduce like new things to them. But being in a city is also helping expose and build that empathy. What we talk about is, I think, also very helpful.
Awesome. So where can people find you?
Yeah, you could find me on Instagram at Startup Dad. You can also learn more about Diversely at diversely.co. You can see all the different things we're doing there, and those are from there you'll see everything.
Yeah, I've looked at it. Like I said, we'll put it up right down here. Man, I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank
you so much for grinding.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
this is awesome. We're pretty close to the same age, so there's another pivot, right? And it just keeps happening. So that's what Disrupting Education is all about.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, check them out. We'll throw up the websites. Until next time, keep disrupting.